Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Moms Do. I'm Carly.
Colette.
Kaylee. How are you? How have you been? Updates. What have you guys been doing?
I went to Hawaii.
Hawaii.
With my sisters.
looks so fun.
Not all of my sisters. A couple of them couldn't come. But
Yeah, like me. I'm your sister.
sorry about it.
Fine, we'll go on our own Hawaii trip. Just kidding.
No, it was awesome. We've never done a trip like that as
That's so
sisters.
fun.
So it was really fun. We went to Oahu. We got to see Pearl Harbor, which was amazing. It was such an emotional day.
I heard that you just like feel
You do.
this energy there.
Yeah. It's
You
almost like a
really
reverence. Don't you feel like it was kind of like
Totally.
you just, yeah.
Just a reverence for the whole experience that those people went through back then. And for America, it was really awesome. And we went snorkeling
Oh, I love that. At Hanauma Bay.
Hanama Bay.
I can never say it right. Hanama.
Hanuma Bay or
That's
something
like
that.
world-class snorkeling.
It was so amazing. I saw some really awesome.
like the scared a little.
Yeah, it is. Like,
Freak me
When I first start snorkeling, I swim like this. I'm like very like tied up because I feel like if the more I stretch out, something's gonna touch me. So I start out like this, and then by the end, I'm like,
I love it. It
You
makes
know?
me feel like a mermaid. I'm like, I'm in the ocean. I'm breathing underwater. And I just drank some water.
so salty.
It's really fun though. So that was a good time. That's
cool.
Good bonding
Hawaii.
time with my sisters. So
Good for you. Did you have snow
Nice.
cones, shaved ice?
We did, yes, we did. And the fun thing was, looking back at like Instagram pictures from back home, like Shay's Instagram, it was just dumping snow on us, and we haven't had snow all season, so I'm like, this is awesome!
You brought it from Hawaii.
I'm laying
You,
on
like,
the beach, and it's
wrap it
snowing
up.
at home.
That's fun.
You know, when you get home, you can go skiing because the snow's gonna be nice.
Yes, exactly. I was really pumped. It was a good week.
I was like, really, it's gonna snow now?
It's a little confusing because it kind of felt like it was going into spring, and I was like, oh, I think I had embraced that.
Right.
And then like all of a sudden went to snow, and I felt like you. I was like, now we're snowing. Now it's winter.
I was super bummed that we hadn't gotten any snow. I was like, I
Yeah.
really wanted to like build a snowman. I wanted to like go sledding one time. The kids haven't been skiing, and then I kind of like you just was like, okay, well this is how this year's
fine.
gonna be, and I'm ready now. And
And
I was
then
getting
it
worried about
snowed.
like our moisture.
Yeah.
Does that sound like
Like
makes
for
it
the
sound like
crops
I'm
and
older?
stuff.
Worried about our
like
moisture.
for camping, we won't be able to have campfires. You're like the crops, which is smart. Hello.
Oh, the moms do.
That is true. You can't
I
have
really wanna make
campfires when it's
s'mores.
dry.
Moisture just is good for all things, you know? All the
true.
things.
How about you?
I haven't been up to much.
I feel like I've been, like, do you feel like you've been a homebody?
I 100% have been a homebody. I actually, what has been going on with me is I have been so much of a homebody that I'm like, I need to do something for myself. I feel like I have lost myself, and my hobby has honestly always been doing hair. I love it. It makes me so happy.
I just live, like, 2 houses down. Just come on over.
And so I've been looking at some training and stuff online, and I think I'm gonna schedule some classes and go to some classes. I don't know if that will lead to me like going to work at a salon anytime soon, but I just feel like I want to educate myself. I want to get out. I want to like expand my knowledge, and I know it's only with hair. And that might seem like
that's
silly to
awesome.
some
But
people, but
that's
that
what
is something that
talent.
I love. And I think like when you have a talent, when you have a hobby and you love it, it's always great to keep, you know, increasing your knowledge and learning new techniques. And I just love working with my hands, and I think like it just helps me find myself.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I've really been thinking about a lot. It's been on my mind a lot. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
proud of
That's
you.
awesome.
So today we were kind of discussing this issue before we actually started filming, because we have points that we feel like we want to share about this topic, but we're also kind of weary. And I feel like the more real we can be and open up, the better conversations that we get to have in life with people. And we've been talking about like the crazy, scary things that are going on in the world. And as moms and women and families, we're us sending our kids out to the world, into the world, the scary world that we're living in, and to school. How do you talk to your kids about not being afraid about the things that they hear on the news and about these school shootings and the violence and so much going on? Like, as moms, how do we start these hard conversations with our kids? Because of course we want to look them in the eyes and be like, you're going to be okay, it's fine. But it's so scary to say that we don't really always know.
I know it's scary to talk to your kid about not being scared when you're scared yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared of this world we live in because you don't know. Like, the thought of these parents going through something as terrible as sending their kids to school and them not ever coming home, like,
Yeah.
How is that happening? Like, how does this keep happening?
Especially at a place where it's like, it's school.
Yeah.
It's not even a thing that you would think that's not safe.
Right. And it's just so, like, what do you do? And we see people, like, fighting so many different sides of this, what they think it is, what they think the problem is, and what do we do? And I feel guilty. I was talking to you guys earlier. I feel guilty because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know right now what to do and how to actively do anything about this problem.
Yeah.
Other than talking to my kids. And I don't know if that's, like, as parents we get so busy and, you know, we're talking about, like, finding who we are and keeping that, and then we want to, you know, be there for our kids too, and then having these hard conversations. It's like, how do we balance all of this all the time? It's so hard. And you wonder, like, who are these kids that go and shoot up a school? Like why did this happen? And parents are busy, and, like, are we letting all of these kids down? Like, are we letting these kids down who feel like that's the answer, that they want to go and do that? Are we, you know, are we letting our kids down when we're sending them to school and it's not safe?
Right.
It's just, what do we do?
Yeah. These conversations are so hard to have. I mean, I've had mixed feelings every time something like this happens, and it sucks that I have to say every time because it's happened, you know, several times in several different ways.
2018, yeah, there's already been a case of them.
And I think now at school, you know, they're doing, like, fire drills, earthquake drills, and now they're doing drills to teach students what to do if there is a school shooting. Like,
Yeah. Like, it's become now part of their protocol.
Yeah.
It's like part of
they
the,
have to
I remember when
be
we would do
aware of.
earthquake drills, I'm like, this is silly, that will never happen. And now it's like, if you would have told me that in 5th grade, can you imagine? Someone will come into the school with a gun and possibly shoot everybody. I'd be like, that's crazy, you're making that up.
Yeah.
And now that's kind of the reality that we live in.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, even just talking about it openly on social media, it's scary because I think that one of the biggest issues is we all want the same thing. Like, we all want it to get better. We all want to fix it, but there's all these different ideas and reasons why people think it happens, and no, we need to focus on this. No, we need to focus on this. No, this is the problem. No, that's not the problem. It's this. And there's always just this big ball
More
of contention,
more fighting, yeah.
and then nothing ever happens because we're just fighting about it. And I was watching a news broadcast of one of the dads that was his daughter passed away in one of the recent shootings, and he was saying, you know, we try to make it about this, we try to make it about gun control, we try to make it about this. Let's try to focus on the issue. How do we keep our kids safe? And he's like, and he was so brokenhearted, you could tell. He was just like, this can't happen again. Like, what can we do that it can't happen again? And the truth is, it could happen again. Like, we can't fix everything. We can't make people change. We can't make everything foolproof, but we can reach out to each of these issues and look at it honestly and genuinely and think, what can we do as individuals, as communities, as states, as countries to help instead of fighting about it?
Yeah.
And it's so hard because everybody does have a different reason, a different opinion, or a different experience that they've had to suffer through that makes them feel a certain way. But I think the ultimate, you know, just have compassion for each other and realize, like, everybody involved is suffering. This is, you know, the shooter's suffering, the kids are suffering, the families are suffering, the country's suffering. And
What I hate seeing is it seems like who doesn't want safer schools? Who doesn't want, if it is about gun control, if it is about mental health, if it is about stricter laws, like, at the end of the day, I don't think that really any of us want anything that's different. We all just want safety for our children. But what's happening is people think that they have the answer and they have the answer and this is the issue, like you said, that needs to be fixed. And what happens is it's breeding more anger and people are fighting with each other. Like, as soon as I heard about the Florida one, I've learned that I speak really quickly sometimes and sometimes on social media because I want to dig in. I want to know the information. I want to know what people are thinking, and it's interesting to me. And sometimes I think that people think that once you speak up or you start a conversation that you're trying to claim that you have the answers or that you know what you're talking about, and people just instantly attack you rather than, like, let's just have these hard conversations and see eye to eye, because at the end of the day we all have the same goal in mind. Rather than I'm just going to call you a name and I'm just going to point fingers and I'm just going to think that you're an idiot. And it's hard to have all the answers and to lead a positive conversation where we feel like we're actually making an impact.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that, like, what do we do?
Right.
What do you do?
And I think it's, I mean, if you feel very strongly one way, why not take the time to see the other person's side of
Right.
the argument? And I think that that's been a really good thing in my household, because Casey and I have had conversations, we haven't argued, where he brings up one side of something and then I'll say, well, what about this? This is what I've read, this is what people are worried about. What do you think about this? And then we have this conversation and we're both seeing each other's points.
Yeah.
And that is what everyone needs to do, is like, okay, this is why this person feels this way. This is why this one feels this way. Let's see where we can bring these two things together. Because
Right.
I do think it's a gun problem. I do think it's a mental health problem. I do think it's all of this. I do think that we were talking about, you know, a federal building, right, is protected.
Yeah,
like
they
they
have
have
metal
guards, they
detectors
have
and-
metal detectors.
Yeah, like,
They're
why isn't it
keeping
about a
this
money
safe.
issue with what's put into, like, because my mom works at a school, she's a school secretary. They literally pulled the one officer that they had on grounds because there wasn't a budget for him.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's like, why isn't America focused on pumping more money into schools then to build
Yeah.
like a safer, like, bulletproof doors or a security system? Jackson went to school where they had metal detectors. None of our schools around here have that. Like,
Yeah, and why?
why don't
not?
people have that conversation? Teachers, I feel like teachers should be paid more.
100%.
I mean, then that's the thing. Like, there's so many issues that I think that America is just failing altogether, because obviously we're the ones that are having these issues and all these other countries aren't.
I don't know. I think
But I
that's
don't
a
think it's like a
generalization.
one shoe fits all. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the statistics, like, when's the last shooting that happened in Australia or the UK? Like, why can't we at least like loosen the bands a little bit and just be willing to look around and see what maybe we could change or fix or adopt? Because obviously what we're doing is not working.
Yeah.
Right.
And who knows? Because then I feel like that starts us down this road of, because in my mind, I'm like, I know that there's not a one shoe fits all for this
Yeah.
large magnitude of an issue that's going on. I do think that mental health is a problem. And maybe it is, and I'm like, might get attacked for this, but I do feel like maybe video games and the way that America is okay with violence and us celebrating superheroes killing each other, like, is there an issue with that dives deeper that we don't maybe necessarily, I don't know, because then it's like,
I feel like you could do a spider web. It's just
Yeah, like, it could go in
but then
so
this,
many
but then this,
directions.
and oh, it's probably this and that. I think it's a combination. It's like all of that and none of that at the same time. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it really does.
But it is. It bottles down to people. You know, it bottles down to like, how are we treating people?
yeah. I believe in that saying that hurt people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's true.
And it's so hard to have empathy for these kids who are the murderers of these schools, but I automatically think, if that was my child, what happened in their life for them to feel so broken and so sad, and so that was the answer that they needed to, even if they were wanting attention, obviously they were masking for something that they were missing in their life. And you just, I don't know. Like you said, we don't have the answers, and we're not trying to sit here, but I do think it is important to have these honest conversations, and especially if you are sending your kids to school and they are, you know, bringing up like, Mom, what do I do? I did see on Facebook that they are now making bulletproof backpacks, which is terrifying to even consider, but also a really,
That's great.
an option, you know?
I know, like, I've seen different door stoppers that they can keep in
Yeah.
classrooms. Like, I've seen so many things we just need to, like, I had this conversation with my mom last night, and she's like, raise my taxes. I feel the same way. If you have to raise my taxes to put more money
To
towards the
protect the
schools,
schools.
please do.
Right. Or I was even
Please
thinking,
do.
if I need to put together some kind of like fundraiser for all the schools in this area so I can raise enough money to pay like a salary for a guard or metal detectors or whatever, like, what would that cost? How could we achieve, like, do a couple fun runs or something to put money back into the budget to, I don't know, start on the defense?
Like, to feel like you're actively doing something. That is
Yeah.
the hardest thing. Like, every day you send your kid to school and it's like, what am I
Is it going to
doing?
be okay?
Yeah, is it
Is
gonna
it
be
gonna be
okay?
okay?
Am I gonna, if something happens, am I gonna be like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And I think as far as talking to our kids, which is kind of where we started with this conversation, I think if you honestly feel like you can't have these conversations with your kids, counseling is great.
Yeah.
Because
that's true.
sometimes, it's good to have a different outlook. You can go together as a family. Katie Morton is an amazing therapist, and I've done a few videos with her, and she just put up a video on how to talk to your kids after something like this happens. We don't have all the answers as parents.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating and it's heartbreaking. Don't be afraid to ask for help yourself.
Yeah.
It's hard to process these things for us, and if we can't fully process this, then how are we going to comfort our children? So
Yeah.
Right.
so as parents, reach out and get help.
Reach out and talk to your kids.
Yeah.
And it's a hard conversation to have, especially when, yeah, like you said, it's like we're scared too. We don't have all the answers. I think with my kids, I feel like, I don't know, it's all the little things. It's all the little things that you do to teach them, take care of yourself, pay attention to the kids in school. Who needs a smile? Who needs a friend? Who needs you to sit by them at lunch? Like, trying to do everything you can to reach out to people is sometimes gonna make the difference,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
in
and
somebody's life, whether they will choose to do that or not. And not that you can control that, but
Right.
I don't
You can
know.
always encourage it.
we can always encourage. I feel like just putting that little bit of hope in them, that there are things that you can do, and not to just feel hopeless all the time and live in fear, because
Yeah.
that doesn't help any of
Right.
us to just live in fear and not send our kids to school, or homeschool just because nothing against homeschooling, because I would love to homeschool my kids, but pulling them out just because you're afraid of things, like, that's scary. Like, that's living in fear, and I don't want to teach my kids to do that.
Yeah. I just can't imagine what goes through their heads. I remember when I was in middle school is when Columbine happened. And I was terrified to go to school.
Yeah.
I was scared of certain kids. Like, I don't know, it was just this weird thing that it just made me kind of go like it just makes
Yeah.
your mind go crazy.
I feel like I started labeling people, and I don't even know if that
Yeah.
was fair of me.
Well, it's
you
like,
know?
I
It's true.
remember
Fear breeds judgment.
Yeah, it just does. I remember the kids wore trench coats.
Yeah.
So anyone who wore a trench coat, I was terrified.
But then I think that caught on to be like different and edgy and stand out. So then
Right,
it was
and it
almost like a
wasn't.
popular thing that kids who felt like they were on the outside should dress like that.
Yeah, and I
it
just
was
think some people do.
yeah, which is fine. But
I
I,
love
do
trench
feel like
coats. I
when
thought they were cool.
I know now they're like a statement, but
Nothing
now,
against anyone who
Yeah.
wears trench coats, but that is just what
But
happened.
you guys
It
know what
was
we're
It was
saying,
part
like,
of the fear.
here's a perfect example. We went to the movie the other day with some friends, and this guy came in and he had like baggy clothes on, but it wasn't the baggy clothes. It was like his mannerism. He had his hood pulled over, his hands in his pocket, his head down, and we're in a movie theater. And my first thought is like, he has a gun. He's gonna shoot up this movie theater. And then I thought, that's not fair to do. Like, you don't know him. But is that because of the world we live in and I'm just being careful? Like, I don't think I'm like, oh, he's a bad person. He doesn't pay his taxes. I would not be his friend and sit by him at the lunch table. Not like that kind of judging. You know what I'm saying? But like,
I think you're just always
aware. Yeah, because I had Elliot and I was just like, what would I do? Because we're in a movie theater. Why does he have his hood on? It's not even bright in here. Why is he like, you know what I'm saying?
I think that's being cautious and careful and alert is different than flat out judging.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Because, I mean, there is a fine line there.
Yeah, I think
know, if
that's
you were to
important
stand
for
up
kids
and
to know
start-
too, because Cooper and I had to have that conversation. Well, how would I know like who the shooter's going to be? And I was like, you probably won't, honey. It might be somebody who's really sad and they're actually a really nice kid, but it doesn't mean they always dress a certain way or look a certain way or act a certain way. But that's why you should just be everyone's friend no matter what.
Right.
You know, it's just why does this have to be an issue that we have to even address with our kids?
Do not have the answers
Big
to that question.
sighs, big sighs.
Big size.
But I don't know, I just think that as we were deciding today what topics we wanted to talk about, we all felt like as moms and women, it was something that we wanted to lightly discuss. We obviously know that this is a very sensitive subject, and like kind of Colette had said earlier, everyone has a different experience, and thought the last thing we're trying to do is to say that we absolutely have the answers and that we know what's best. I think it's important that we share our passions and our vulnerabilities about how we feel about these issues and, you know, just kind of be real.
And the other last thing we'd want to do is create more contention,
Right, that's the
and
last
more division. You know, our goal is to bring people together and just
Yeah.
hope that we can spark a more loving approach to this conversation and to actually get to points where we can solve little problems here and there to help the bigger picture.
Amen.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So if you guys have anything positive that you would like to leave in the comments to keep this conversation going, I love hearing more about just the education side of things. Or if you know that your school is participating in like some of those doorstop options, just to help us out. And if you have good points that you have maybe shared with your kids that could help us, we'd love to hear from you guys. And as always, thanks for watching. We love you, and we'll see you next time on The Moms You.
Thank you.
Bye.